Marty, would you agree no facilitation of any kind of public subsidy for a Viking stadium?
I would agree with that, and I have a fairly consistent record of that. In 13 years in the legislature, the Twins came back year after year, and I said no year after year, and I voted for the amendments, for example, to require that a referendum be held in Hennepin County if they wanted to raise taxes. It was a very, very important amendment that only failed by a couple votes. And so everyone in the room needs to ask people who have an election certificate hanging on the wall, how did you vote on the amendment to require a tax referendum, and how did you vote on the bill? And I voted yes on requiring the referendum, and I voted no on the bill. And it is not the job of the governor to be going into the state treasury and figuring out, or into local treasuries, frankly, to be doing this. And I appreciate how creative they were by this business of going into the Hennepin County taxpayers, but it is absolutely wrong in how they did that. There are creative ways that other teams have figured out how to build stadiums, usually with naming rights, with private sector seat leases, with parking revenues and other things that they can do. So it's not like they don't have any options. And I'm happy to facilitate private sector discussions on using the private sector in order if they want to build a stadium, but not with the state treasury.
Bill, fire away.
I really don't want to belabor this point. I would never support that. I've read, the Minnesota Constitution, and I don't see where that is a responsibility of government in any way, shape, or form. And then you have to think about there are interests out there that think it is the responsibility of government, because if government builds this sports facility, it increases the franchise value of the franchise they own by $200 million. So I would never support that. And that's the short answer, and that's the only answer I'll give.
David?
I did not support the Twins stadium. I did not think that was appropriate for government to do that. The Vikings happen to be, their corporate offices are in my district. I'm certain that they will be back, especially if they have a good year this year, to ask for some help on a stadium. That is not anything that the state should do. There should not be any public money to fund a private business building, a private stadium for professional teams. It shouldn't be done. And the argument is always that this is economic development, that somehow this is going to bring about some benefit to the public. But there have been a lot of studies on this for years, and you can go out and find them on the internet. And they never show any development benefit. In fact, in the time the Twins were advocating for this, they changed their plea. After a while, they talked about quality of life. They stopped talking about the economic benefit. They started talking about quality of life. I think quality of life is great. I like the Vikings and the Twins as much as anybody else, but they can certainly afford to build their own buildings. I did not vote for the Twins project, and I would not vote for any Vikings project, even if it was similarly constructed to take not the state money directly, but some other public funds. It's not right.
Bill, where are you on public subsidy or public help in any way for a Viking stadium?
Turn it on there. It's very simple. Why should you and I have to pay for a stadium and use our dollars to build it when the owners are going to make a profit? They're going to sell this stadium for a profit. When they don't want the team here, there's no obligation to keep them here. I was in the legislature when they started talking about the Twin Stadium, and we're in the hearings and listened to the baseball owners and the commissioner talk. They're all in it for themselves and how much they can get out of our pocketbooks. So no, this is not our responsibility, it's their responsibility, and I'll yield my extra time to Tom Emmer because he's going to need it.
Leslie, public subsidy or public help in any way for Viking Stadium?
When they were talking about a Twin Stadium in Minneapolis, the fellow came to me because he couldn't get anybody to communicate with him in the governor's office or at the legislature, and his name was Tony Spadafora. And he had an idea called the Twin Domes Project, where they would build the Twin Stadium and the Viking Stadium together with a sports mall and restaurants, and a real beautiful project, and had it figured out to the dime how it can be covered with private money. Indoor parking, the box seats, all the things that they talk about. Well, then you had some politicians that had some friends that owned the parking lot downwind and underneath the stacks of the garbage burner. And it started to take on a life of itself. Tony Spadafora couldn't get people in the legislature and the governor's office to hear his proposal, and then they went forward and built the stadium under the plume of the garbage burner. These billionaires that are coming from the East Coast would not get any help to subsidize their business. They don't come to us and say, we've got an excess amount of profits from our New Jersey shopping centers, and we'd like to give Minnesota a little bit of that money, or we'd like to help out. So no, not a dime. No support for Viking Stadium. If they want it, they can do it with their own money, and they've got plenty of it.
Do you know we're getting a lesson here in economics tonight? Because these people would all be going over the time limit, but they know that it's not a good rate of return for them. Because if they go 15 seconds over the time limit, I'm going to cheat them out of a minute and a half on the next question. Huh? There you go. See, the Democrats don't believe market economics work. They work. Tom, go ahead.
David, I thought
there are no time limits on me, so don't even start with me.
I just thought I picked up a minute and a half, didn't I? My colleagues. Thank you very much. I thought Leslie gave me a few seconds, too. First, the answer to the question is no. Private businesses should not be getting subsidies to build their buildings, because I imagine many of you, many of us would like to have new buildings as well. It's the wrong answer. Second, I'm glad my colleague brought up the Twins Stadium and the referendum to allow the vote, because now I know where the internet traffic is coming from. I've been hearing, boy, you voted against the referendum before you voted against the stadium. I'll tell you this. Here's a frustration that I have in St. Paul. It's with career politicians that like to tell you, I voted for it before I had to vote for it. The problem was with the Twins Stadium, we had a lot of politicians down there that wanted to tell people, I voted for your right to be able to tax yourselves, and it just didn't pass, sorry. It's kind of like the marijuana bill. We're going to vote for legalizing dope, but in fact what we're doing is we're going to call it a medicine. We just don't want to be honest about what we're doing. The key vote is voting against public subsidies for private stadiums. And I'll tell you what, go up to Cloquet, folks. You can see how this works. There's a beautiful new hockey arena. Corey Millen and some others donated a lot of money to build it. That's the way it should happen. If the Vikings can pay Brett Favre $25 million for 2 years, I think he can kick back in. I will also tell you that I know how this works because in Delano, I've been the president and a member of the board for the Delano Area Sports Arena for the last 10 years. It is a private building run with private money by private citizens. It works, and that's the way it should be done.
All right, Tom, I get a follow-up? And remember, they don't have to be relevant.
I pass my time to Mr. Haas.
I made the rules.
Sorry.
You are known as a firebrand in the legislature.
What does that mean?
That means that you're wild. Is what it means. Okay? Is that going to cause you problems in a statewide election if you get the nomination?
Actually, David, I prefer to tell you that I don't know what firebrand means. I'm a very passionate individual, and I think that what's going to happen in the next election is going to require the type of passion that I offer. We need to get people to realize again, you do not have to hang your head if you're a Republican. Hold your head high. Our values, our ideals are the values and ideals that the public is asking for. You've heard it up here all day. There is a wave that's building out there, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the difference between some of us. You've got to be able to stand up and tell people that wave is forming. Republicans are on the top of that wave. Our colleagues that call themselves Democrats, I'm afraid they're standing on the shore, folks, and they are not listening. And what's going to happen next fall with the firebrand approach is that wave is going to hit the shore, and you know what? It's going to be 1994 all over again. We're not only taking back, we're taking back majorities in the House and the Senate. That's what we're going to do. But thank you for commenting.
All right. Pat, Viking Stadium, in or out, any public money?
No public money. I'm not a legislator. I'm the non-legislator up here. Well, there's a couple others. So, I'm glad. So, I guess that's all I need to say. No public money. We don't give it to any private business, and we shouldn't be giving it to the Vikings. That is a private business. There's other ways they can do it, and it's been done other ways across the country. So, thanks.
Pat, I got a question for you. I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I'm betting that one of the